Welcome back. Welcome to assignment 4A with the Arduino starter kit. Today we are going to be working on something called the color mixing lamp. This is a project where basically you can see here, in the end you're going to look something like this, and depending on what color of light you block, it will change the color of your special light here, right? So the first thing you're going to do, let's talk about the objectives of the lesson here. You're going to first off watch the extra video that I have here. It's pretty new, actually. They just put it out not too long ago. Unlike some of the other Arduino stuff, which was like 2012, 2015, 2016, this is a little bit newer. It's got some great stuff. The girl's really good on it. So I want you to watch that before you begin. I'm obviously going to talk to you through this video right now and give you some stuff too, but supplemental great information. And if you want, the Arduino channel on YouTube is uploading more and more stuff with every project, so you can kind of take a look at some of the projects we're going to do. So watch the video first, nothing to submit there. Then read the book for project 4, and you can read the booklet kind of at the end of the video when she starts talking about the code. So you can kind of do these two together, but what you're going to need to do, and don't worry, I'm going to talk a little bit about the basics of what you see in the booklet, but like I said, this is a very independent class. It's all project-based. So you're going to read Project 4, Color Mixing Lamp, right? No real new parts except for some photo transistors. You got resistors, pretty straightforward. You're going to wire the board. I'm going to warn you, this will be one of the harder boards to wire. A lot of interesting words I've heard in labs and in shops when trying to make this one. It's a little frustrating. You'll read about the code. Nothing too crazy except for this divided by 4 part, which we'll talk about and is explained right in here about how certain sensors can output in different amounts. Like some things might work from 0 to 1023. Some things might work on a scale from 1 to 10. Some things might work on a scale from 0 to 255. So if you've got something that's giving you a signal from 0 to 1023, but you want it to go from 0 to 255 on what you're putting it out on, you've got to convert those numbers so they scale proportionately. It'll be explained a little bit more on here and explained in the video about that conversion. So you're going to read the book and watch the video. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to wire your lovely board without any code on it, without any power to it. You're just going to wire it as if it was unplugged and submit a picture of the wiring. Next up, and yep, we'll talk about that right away. Then you will write and verify the code, and you will submit a picture of your code being verified. You will upload the code and run the lights. Let's talk about the project in a little bit of detail. First, some generalizations about the project. Wiring this thing is very tricky. There's a lot of close things, and your bare wires can't touch each other, especially on this. Those wires might touch up there, and you'll cause short circuits. You can't have any of these wires under there touching. They've all got to be clean. All of those there, look how close those wires are to touching each other. You could cause a short circuit or a grounding problem. And these 3 things, putting these gels in, I'll take one out. I may never be able to put it back in. Let's see. Which one do I dare tempt fate with? I'll try the blue. Watch, and as I take the blue out, this light will become more red. There we go. So you'll notice too that, like, depending on the light in your room, depending on the shade or the temperature of your light, will change your photoresistor as well. So I'm going to show you how. See, this I've had to bend. Very weird, right? I've had to bend this on an angle. I've had to put this through here. And now notice the long side goes to the power because you've got power running down this strip. You've connected power here to power there and used it to power one side of these sensors. And then I'm going to plug it in here, right? So I've run it through the board. You can see it goes through the middle slot, out, and the long side goes to the power source in this case. So you'll kind of have to angle it in there. It's not fun. That's why we give you lots of time to work on this project. So I will add that. and I will put my blue filter on, and I suggest you take it and you kind of pre-bend it lightly, get it in one of the slots, and then hope that you can see. And as you're working on one, the other might pull out there. See, this is very tricky. That's not very good. Anyway, you can see what I'm supposed to be doing here. It's kind of messed up my light too. Like I was saying, this is a very hard board to wire. Let me try again here. Huzzah! There we go. Now I've got them back on. Now it's kind of balancing, and depending on the light in your room, you could also shine lights on different sensors or block certain sensors, but it's always reading. So that's what you're going to submit a picture of. It's a tricky one to wire. You got to make sure all your circuits are clean. You got to make sure none of your wires are touching each other. Getting those three things in there and getting that in clean is very tricky as well. So take your time. It's no rush. This is going to be one of the longer projects we'll do. No rush. Take your time. Do a clean job. So a couple things you need to know before I let you get working on this. First of all, you're going to be doing something PWN, pulse width modulation. You can read about this. See, you can't vary the output. The Arduino only sends 5 volts out of your digital outputs. And see, each one of these pins on this light that we use is getting voltage from, pin 9, pin 10, and pin 11. And then there's obviously a ground pin there in the middle, kind of on segment 13 there, on strip 13. So you're getting feeds of voltage from 10, 11, and 12, or 9, 10, 11, all going to this light, but they can't send lower voltage or higher voltage. Like they can't send 4.5 volts or 3 volts. They either send 0, low, or 5 volts, high, right? So they're sending that light. So how do you make this go up and down in colors? Well, you do something called pulse width modulation, where you send flashes of signal in milliseconds. If you send a lot of flashes, that light will really show. If you send a lot of light on the green channel here, if you send a lot of flashes per second to the green channel, the light will be more green. If you send less flashes per second, flash, 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 right, it'll be less green and more of the other colors depending on what these sensors are reading. And notice, these are reading flexible things. They're not doing on, off, is red, on, off. No, these are reading like how much red's let through, how much green's let through, how much blue's let through. And that's why we have them wired, once again, just like the last project, to the analog ins, because those analog ins, they can measure from 0 to 123. And these work much like the temperature sensor, these little phototransistors. These phototransistors, depending on how much light they absorb, that's how much voltage they will put out to the analog ins. That's going to give a number between 0 and 1023. I'm just going to go to our code for a second. Light that up. And I will upload that to the board again just for clarification. It's already running, so it should make no difference. There we go. It's uploading back to normal. But these will read how much light and put a voltage amount to each one, blue, green, red, into our analog inputs, and they'll give a number between 0 and 123. And since we have these analogs running, we can go to the monitor and see the value. See how much red, how much green, how much blue is coming in constantly. How much green, how much blue, how much red. You could slow it down. You could shut off auto scroll and take a look on it. You can play around with that. Back to the sketchbook here. There we go. But you can see how much is coming in of each of these colors. And if you put your finger over one or put a light on one, it'll change the value as you're reading it, which is pretty cool. These are very flexible. Now, in your code, depending on what you get here, you convert it to how much flash or how many pulses come out here. So are you going to send lots of pulses? If you block the blue analog in gets a lower number, and it tells the pin that connects to the blue part of this LED, that's color mixing LED, to send less blue, which makes it seem more green and red, which becomes orange, right? Green and red blended is orange. If you block the red analog in sends a lower number, which in our code tells this output to send less to the red, less flashes or pulses, which makes it seem more blue and green blending together, right? If you cover the green, you'll obviously send less and make it seem more purple, right? If I cover green, I can make it very purple. If I cover red, I can make it more bluey green. If I cover blue-green, I can make it kind of orange. I don't know about you, but I think that's really cool. It's because these are reading analog, converting through our software and through our code, and telling how much to flash this light. That is cool. That's the basics of how this code works. So you can read about that. Look at this. There is 6 pins in the Arduino. Pins 3, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11, and they are marked with a little squiggle right there next to them. Those are the ones that we can do pulses with. So not all of these pins can do pulses. So you've got to make sure your code tells to send pulses out of the actual pins that are allowed to do that, which is kind of neat. Anything else that I really need to cover? Notice that the long one goes to ground in your light. Putting those shades on the photoresistor is a bit frustrating, but it can be done. If I can do it, you can do it. Any other real weird things on this page? Nothing too much to worry about there. Then you're setting your constants right up the start. You're setting your green, your red, and your blue pins, and your green and your red and your blue sensors. Your sensors are your analogs, and your outputs are your pins, right? So you're setting up in your code that these are going to constantly, the analogs are going to be constantly sensors, and the LEDs the pulses that come out are going to go out of green, red, and blue out of these pins here because they can do pulses. So sensors and outputs that send pulses. And that's all starting off in your code. You'll set your values. You'll begin the 9600. That's right. That's back to where you can actually monitor the values, right? And if I want to turn green down like this, you can't see it, it's running too fast, but if you pause it, if you cover green, your green value would get very low then. All right. Read through that, and as you watch the video, I believe the lady in it does a very good job of explaining a little bit more of the code and explaining how things work. And the booklet does a good job of explaining the setup of the project. So once again, take a look. This is a mix of all the colors. If I block this, it turns more green-blue is allowed in. If I block blue, it becomes more orange. If I block green, it becomes more purple. Pretty neat. And it's just doing it through analog reads and flashing out in P pulse width modulations through the pins that are allowed to do that. That's the basics of the project. I think it's pretty cool. Let's talk about what you need to do again. Watch the vid, read the booklet, take your time, build the board, and submit a picture of that on the assignment. Write and verify the code. Just snap a picture of the code that says it's verified, and then upload it and run it and send a picture of it running. Maybe send it doing the clearest colors you can. So if you can make a nice orange, send a picture of an orange. And if you can make a nice purple, send a couple pictures of that, of your clearest colors, to show that you are mixing the colors in the room. And obviously this room has a little bit more red light because I don't know if you can see. Here, I'll show you. I've got these light filters over here, and they actually make the classroom a little bit more red and orange kind of in color. So we're kind of starting like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this project. Do all the stuff. And coming up next, we're going to get ready for a little bit of a review and a test coming up. And you're done the first kind of third or quarter-ish, right? 4 projects, but you've had more lessons in these kind of first 4 projects than you will later on. You'll have a little more freedom as we go on. But you're about a quarter done the course, maybe even a little bit more, maybe close to a third. You're done a good chunk of the kit. And the rest of the kit, I kind of take my foot off of the brake and let you kind of do a little bit more and more freedom, because you're kind of getting the ground rules of how the code works, how the wiring works, how circuits work. And if we're lucky at the end of the course and things are going good, we're going to actually get some soldering boards and do soldering and work on a little bit of a more old school approach to electronics. But for right now, we're sticking with the Arduino. We're going to be sticking for most of the projects in the book. We might not go in order on all of them. We might skip a couple, so don't jump ahead. Don't worry too much. Like I said, we've got lots of time. Submit everything, and we'll see you soon for the test review and the test. Thanks a lot.